Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. There are a wealth of data available across exchanges and markets that help investors understand the macro trends in place. Joining me to discuss is Leon Edery with BNP Paribas. Leon, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks. So Leon, explain why Nasdaq LBMA OTC data is a key resource for you and what does it give you the ability to analyze?
Hi, Jill, and thanks for inviting me today. On precious metals, it's true that now we have a wealth of data available across markets, across exchanges, and that helps us understanding the momentum and what's building up in the precious metals markets. So obviously, precious metals are in the spotlight. There's a lot of investors interested in precious metals, in gold and silver particularly, for their safe haven properties. And the data that I'm generally looking at, for example, OTC gold spot volumes, are showing a clear trend, a clear uptrend of volumes. So during the COVID-19 crisis in March and April, there was approximately 30 million ounces of gold trading per day, whereas last year that was more around 20 million ounces. So that helps us understand what exactly is at play in the precious metal market. The same happens in silver and platinum and palladium.
You also routinely compare this OTC spot data to other important venues like futures exchanges. What are some of the interesting differences that you see?
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting because the precious metal market function with like this sort of dual liquidity between futures exchanges and OTC market. And now we have comparable data. We see that nowadays OTC spot gold volumes are trading at par with futures volumes, so around 20-25 million ounces a day on average. That has implications in terms of liquidity, in terms of price dislocation. Futures volumes have reduced a lot since the COVID-19 situation, and this is probably linked to previous lockdowns and curtailment of activity and shipping routes being stopped, and all this created this sort of impossibility for dealers to trade the arbitrage between local London OTC spot and futures. This creates this sort of price dislocation, and the price discovery mechanism of gold is a bit more complicated nowadays than it was last year.
Outside of gold and palladium, you mentioned you look at some other kinds of metals. What are the distinct features there?
Yeah, it's true. I obviously look at platinum and palladium, and they are trading more as commodities. So the dynamics around supply and demand are much more important. So in terms of the data that I look also through the Nasdaq LBMA OTC data is for example, the swap volumes or the lease volumes per tenors historically in the past, and also the open positions. There's a lot of data. It's, pardon me the pun, but it's a gold mine of information. And the idea is that we can understand more of the momentum going on here. We can give more insight to our client. We can give more serviceable ideas. We can sometimes even create added value investment products. So all this data helps us in responding to our clients most efficiently. It's interesting. For example, platinum lease volumes, I can see that there's around 7 million ounces of open position, which means that approximately $6 to $8 billion worth of platinum are traded through these products used by end users or intermediary users to fund inventories, to fund equipment in this particular metal. It's really interesting and insightful.
Leon, to wrap up here, do you expect the spotlight to remain on the metals market now?
Absolutely. I mean, at the moment, precious metals are a go-to asset. A lot of investors are keep adding gold and silver to their portfolios. There's still a lot of discussions around inflation expectation, negative real yields, the ballooning debt of countries around the world facing the COVID-19 crisis. So I expect gold and silver to remain really on the front line. There's a lot of things going on. Possibly the US elections in November will keep investors on their teeth. So it's possible that gold and silver will keep having a high hand on all other commodities.
All right, Leon, fantastic insight. Thanks so much for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.